Ever find yourself captivated by a sense of unease in seemingly mundane and innocuous places? This sensation can be unsettling, as if the walls of reality are starting to decay, revealing a hitherto unseen layer of the world that lurks just beneath the surface of the everyday. Enter the world of liminal horror. This subgenre of horror probes and explores these feelings, transforming the ordinary into the extraordinary and imbuing the everyday with a sense of the sinister. Liminal horror, a name derived from the Latin word limen, threshold, is a subgenre that capitalizes on a sense of dislocation and unfamiliarity in spaces that should otherwise be comforting or mundane. It seeks to uncover the uncanny, the strange within the ordinary, and exploit it to evoke feelings of unease and terror. It takes the familiar, a typical room, a common building, a regular street, and distorts it, infusing it with an aura of the supernatural or the unknown. A prime example of this is the Backrooms, a concept that has gained traction in recent years, taking root in the internet's collective consciousness. The Backrooms, a seemingly infinite expanse of identical yellow-carpeted rooms, presents a terrifying prospect. Each is eerily identical to the last. Not a single piece of furniture, not a single distinguishing mark. The walls are a uniform, sickly yellow, the carpet beneath your feet worn and threadbare. The light fixtures buzz incessantly, emitting a dim yellow light that seems to swallow the room in its melancholy glow. This chilling concept resonates deeply with the Millennial and Gen Z generations. It taps into the anxieties that pervade these age groups, mirroring their fears about feeling lost in a world that appears to be stuck in an endless cycle of sameness. The Backrooms encapsulate this sense of existential dread, the fear of being trapped in a maze with no discernible end in sight. Yet it's not just about being lost. It's about feeling trapped in a world where the ordinary becomes a source of dread. It's about the familiar being twisted and contorted until it becomes unrecognizable. Terrifying. In this way, liminal horror pokes and prods at our deepest fears, exploiting our fear of the unknown and our discomfort with the all-too-familiar. This is the power of liminal horror. It takes what is mundane, a simple room, a common hallway, an ordinary office, and manipulates it, warps it until it becomes conduit for our deepest fears. It transforms these everyday spaces, filling them with an unsettling energy that's hard to shake. It forces us to confront our anxieties, to face the reality that even the most familiar spaces can be transformed into something wholly unfamiliar, into a haunting nightmare. Consider how the endless yellow-carpeted rooms of the Backrooms encapsulate the existential dread of our generation. They serve as a mirror, reflecting back at us our fears. The fear of monotony, of being trapped in an endless cycle, of losing ourselves in the vast expanse of sameness. They force us to the reality that our normal, everyday lives can be twisted and manipulated into something entirely different, something terrifying. In conclusion, liminal horror plays on the unease we feel in everyday spaces, the uncanniness of the ordinary. It uses these to create a world where the mundane becomes terrifying, where the familiar becomes strange. It is a masterful manipulation of our deepest fears and anxieties, forcing us to confront the reality that even the familiar can become a source of dread. This is the power of liminal horror. It takes the mundane and transforms it into a haunting nightmare. And that's how the endless yellow-carpeted rooms of the Backrooms encapsulate the existential dread of our generation. Imagine stumbling upon a late-night broadcast that slowly spirals into a chilling nightmare. It begins innocently enough, a humdrum show on an old channel, but as the night wears on, the broadcast takes on a sinister hue. This is a world where things are not what they seem, where shadows dance on the periphery of the screen, where the usual becomes unusual. This is the realm of analog horror. Analog horror, a niche yet evocative subgenre, hinges on the idea of using outdated technology to create a deeply unsettling atmosphere. The grainy footage, the static sounds, the off-kilter color palettes, these form the backbone of analog horror. It is a genre that thrives on the uncanny, the eerie, the disturbing, and the downright terrifying. It is rooted in an age where information was not as readily available as it is now, creating a sense of not just unease, but also of vulnerability. The grainy footage, not just a stylistic choice, it's a carefully crafted device to evoke a sense of nostalgia and dread. It harks back to an era when technology wasn't as seamless as it is now. The fuzzy images, the shaky camera movements, the blips, and the static all serve to blur the line between reality and fiction. They remind us of the times when we huddled around the television, straining to see through the static. The static sounds, too, play an integral part. They are not mere background chatter. They are a character in themselves, one that's as unpredictable as it is scary. The static sounds are the screams, the whispers, the laughter that echo in the empty of our subconscious. They intermingle with the visuals to create a world that's familiar yet alien, real yet dreamlike. Then there's the off-kilter color palette. It's not just about giving a vintage look to the footage, it's about painting a world that's just a little off. The overly saturated colors, the deep shadows, the stark contrasts, they all contribute to a sense of something not quite right. They create an atmosphere where reality seems twisted, where ordinary things take on an extraordinary hue. Take Local 58, for instance. It's a series that uses all these elements to craft a deeply disturbing narrative. It doesn't rely on cheap jump scares or over-the-top gore. Instead, it works its dread into every frame, every sound. The found footage style employed by Local 58 blurs the line between what's real and what's not. The aesthetics of old television broadcasts are used to evoke fear. It's not just about what's happening on the screen, but the feeling that something sinister is lurking behind the static. Local 58 has successfully tapped into the deep-seated fear and unease that runs rampant in our society. It's not just a nostalgic look at the past, but a commentary on the present. It's a chilling exploration of the fears that come with living in an age where information is easily manipulated, where our fluid, where the unknown lurks in the corners of our digital lives. For millennials and Gen Z, this resonates. There's a certain nostalgia for the analog era, yes, but there's also a deep-seated unease about the misinformation that runs rampant in our digital age. They find echoes of their own fears in the chilling narrative of Local 58. The series, with its eerie broadcasts, serves as a stark reminder of the dangers of misinformation, of the fear of the unknown. So, as we watch Local 58 and the world it creates, we are left with a deep sense of unease. We are reminded of the power of information, of the danger of misinformation, and of our shared fear of the unknown. We are left questioning the reality presented to us, left with a lingering fear of what's hiding behind the static. And here's the thing, for millennials and Gen Z, this resonates. There's a certain nostalgia for the analog era, yes, but there's also a deep-seated unease about the misinformation that runs rampant in our digital age. So, Local 58, with its eerie broadcasts, is a chilling reminder of our shared fear of the unknown and the deceptive. What happens when you mix childhood nostalgia with a dose of terror? You get absurdist surreal horror. The genre isn't something you frequently encounter, as it merges the typically separate worlds of childhood innocence and the chilling darkness of horror. It's a distinct style where the most mundane, ordinary of elements are infused with an eerie, distressing twist. Take a trip back to your childhood. The playful memories of summer vacations, the joy of children's birthday parties, the thrill of fun-filled outings, all filled with an innocent sense of wonder. Now imagine those cherished memories, but with an insidious undercurrent of dread lurking in the background, waiting to spring forth at the most unexpected moment. It brings an entirely new level of discomfort to the previously benign experiences. That is precisely the brand of horror we're delving into today. Absurdist surreal horror is an unconventional genre, but that's what makes it so compelling. It dares to take a step further into the abyss of terror, making the familiar and the strange familiar, exploring the sinister potential that lies beneath the surface of the everyday. Our chosen exemplar, Five Nights at Freddy's, is a phenomenal illustrative case in point. On the surface, it appears to be nothing more than a game set in a children's pizza parlor, filled with singing animatronics. It seems innocuous, harmless, a playful nod to simpler time. Yet beneath this veneer of familiarity lies a hauntingly different reality. This seemingly benign setting soon becomes a treacherous terrain, a stage for the surreal. The pizza parlor transforms from a joyous haven to a place teeming with nightmarish possibilities. No longer a comfort zone, the once charming surroundings morph into eerie backdrops, setting the stage for an experience that is both unsettling and profoundly disturbing. The animatronic characters, considered delightful companions during the day, undergo a terrifying transformation when the lights go out. They turn from jolly entertainers into relentless predators, prowling in the shadows, their eyes glowing with an ominous light. The uncertainty of their movements, their unpredictable appearances, often referred to as jump scares, create a sense of constant unease, a ticking clock of tension. The game exploits our primal fears, the dread of the unknown that lurks just out of sight. It's a masterclass in suspense, building anticipation with each passing moment, keeping the players perpetually on their toes. It taps into our innate fear of the dark, the unknown, and the unexpected. It's this blend of nostalgic familiarity and heart-stopping terror that makes absurdist surreal horror such a compelling genre. Five Nights at Freddy's also resonates with Millennial and Gen Z audiences, evoking nostalgia for a time when life was simpler. Yet it juxtaposes this nostalgia with a sense of horror, creating a dissonance that is both compelling and unsettling. The game's uncanny animatronics are an essential part of this dissonance. They represent a perversion of our fond childhood memories, morphed into something unrecognizable and terrifying. They encapsulate the essence of absurdist surreal horror, blending the familiar with the bizarre, the innocent with the ominous. This genre's unique blend of nostalgia and terror is a potent mix, a cocktail of emotions that leaves a lasting impression. It's an exploration of our deepest fears, a journey into the unknown territories of our psyche. It pushes the boundaries, challenges our perceptions, and dares us to confront the lurking terrors concealed within our memories. Five Nights at Freddy's, with its uncanny animatronics, perfectly captures our generation's nostalgic fears. This game, this genre, is a testament to the power of nostalgia and terror, reminding us of the potent cocktail these two elements can create when blended together. It's a uniquely chilling experience, a must-try for those brave enough to delve into the unexplored depths of absurdist surreal horror. These subgenres of horror, each unique, strike a chord with Millennials and Gen Z. There's an inexplicable fascination, a morbid curiosity, an enigmatic attraction. It's as if these movie genres have become a reflection of the internal fears and insecurities harbored by the younger generations. It's safe to say, the world of horror has truly evolved, and these newer subgenres are the evolution's resultant progeny. Liminal horror is one such fascinating subgenre. It plays on humanity's deep-seated fear of the unknown, the in-between, the transitional. It has the power to unsettle and disquiet us. Liminal horror takes its audience on a journey through the oddities of life and the mystery of existence, a journey that feels like a disconcerting limbo, a threshold between reality and the uncanny. It does not rely on explicit gore or shock value, but on a subtle creeping sense of unease that lingers long after the credits roll. It's the unsettling feeling of a room that should be familiar but is slightly off, or a person who should but is eerily different. This genre feeds off of and enhances the human fear of the unknown, a fear that Millennials and Gen Z are all too familiar with as they navigate the uncertainties of the future. On the other hand, we have analog horror, a subgenre that derives its inspiration from the bygone era, the pre-digital age. It imbues within its audience a nostalgia for simpler times, a longing for the days when technology was not so intimately entwined with our daily lives. Employing grainy film footage, static-filled audio, and other retro elements, analog horror subtly remarks on society's growing dependency on technology and the potential horrors it could bring. It's a stark reminder of how far we've come and how much we've left behind. It appeals to those who feel a sense of loss amidst the digital deluge, a sentiment often expressed by Millennials and Gen Z who have grown up in the dizzying speed of technological advancement. Then there's absurdist surreal horror, a genre that embraces the chaotic, the irrational, and the nonsensical. Our world often seems senseless and absurd, and this subgenre mirrors that sentiment. It's a form of horror that does not bother itself with logic or reason, but simply exists in its own realm of chaotic creativity. It echoes the times we live in, times when the world seems to be spinning out of control, when reality often appears more incredible than fiction. It's a genre that resonates with the younger generations, who often feel as if they're living in a world that's become too strange to comprehend. In their own distinctive ways, liminal, analog, and absurdist surreal horror resonate with the Millennial and Gen Z psyche. They mirror the trials and tribulations faced by these generations. They reflect their apprehensions, their hopes, their dreams, and their nightmares. These subgenres are not just mere forms of entertainment, but rather a mirror to the soul of an entire generation. A mirror that reflects their collective experiences, their shared anxieties, and their unique perspectives. They serve as a commentary on the times we live in, voicing out the fears and concerns of the Millennials and Gen Z in a way that no other genre does. For many, these subgenres are more than just films. They are experiences, journeys into the depths of the human psyche. They provoke thought, evoke emotion, and leave an indelible impact on their audience. They represent a shift in the landscape of horror, a shift that reflects in our society and our collective consciousness. They capture the essence of our times with an uncanny accuracy, making them a true reflection of our reality. It's no surprise, then, that these subgenres of horror have gained such popularity among the younger generations. They reflect our collective anxieties, primal fears, and a longing for simpler times. In their own distinctive ways, liminal, analog, and absurdist surreal horror mirror the millennial and Gen Z psyche, making them the true horror of our times.